Want to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Oh, shoot.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the
Flag
United
of the
States
United
of
States of
America
America
and
and
to
to the
the
republic
republic for which it
with
stands,
which it stands,
one
one nation,
under
under
God,
God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and
liberty
justice
and justice
for
for
all.
all.
Madam Chairperson,
Yes,
I'd just like to advise everybody that Shannon Morris Smith will now be acting as the secretary to the Board of Zoning Appeals.
okay, so
Great.
she will be doing our roll call for us then, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Can we have a roll call, please? She needs to unmute though.
Kathleen Hill,
Present?
William Hutton,
Present.
Nancy Reagan,
Present.
Roger Brock,
Present.
Dennis Radowski,
Present.
5 present. We have a quorum.
All right, we'll move into our minutes. And do we have a motion in regard to the minutes for May 25th, 2016?
I so move.
I make,
Bill
I'll
Hutton.
second that.
Okay, we have, can we state our names? We have Mr. Hudden moved and
Nancy Reagan, second.
and seconded. We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Do we have a motion in regard to tabling the minutes for June 29th, 2016, May 24th, 2017, July 26th, 2017, February 25th, 2020, August 25th, 2020, December 1st, 2020, January 26th, 2021?
Madam Chairperson,
Yes.
I'd like to remind you that we need to have a roll call vote for everything.
Oh, I thought with the minutes, we did not need it.
Because of the requirements of Zoom, we have to have a roll call vote.
Okay, thank you for the reminder. So can we go back to as far as we have a motion and a second in regard to the minutes for May 25th, 2016, as far as approval? Could we have a roll call vote, please?
Hill,
Yes,
Hutton,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Brock,
Yes.
Radowski.
Yes.
and the results of the vote are?
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. Motion passed.
Okay. We need a motion now as far as to table the minutes for June 29th, 2016, May 24th, 2017, July 26th, 2017, February 25th, 2020, August 25th, 2020, December 1st, 2020, and January 26th, 2021. Do we have such a motion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second. Roger.
Nancy made the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to table the minutes that were just stated. Could we have a roll call vote?
Hill,
Yes,
Hutton,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Brock,
Yes.
Radowski.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions. Motion passed.
go to old business. We have Z 1905, a petition of Swanell Beverage Inc. for a conditional use permit extension regarding title section 11.31 parens D, loss abutting residential district to allow the continued operation of a beverage warehouse located in I-1 Light Industrial District located at 712 Highland Street in the city of Hammond. Since I assume that we do not need as far as notification requirements for this, Mr. Poland or Mr. Novak?
No notification requirements are necessary.
Okay, have they been received? Do we have them then? Have they been received?
They're not necessary.
Oh,
for-
I thought you said they were necessary.
No,
I'm
not
sorry.
necessary.
All right. Do we have anybody that like to state why this is needed? Do we have anybody from Swanell or Mr. Poland, Mr. Novak? Are you taking this?
We have Mr. Moore.
Okay, Mr. Moore?
Hi, good evening. I'm here representing Ed Rivario with Swanell. And we're just putting in a request for an extension for the approval that we received. And it's just simply down because of the COVID. They are a beverage company that utilizes or that works within Northwest Indiana and the Chicagoland area. And as you guys know, most of the Chicago restaurants were closed for sit-down service, and it just almost decimated their business. So they put everything on hold, and everything is starting to open up. And as soon as things start getting a little bit better, they're going to start moving forward with the plan that they had received approval for. And they're hoping, I'm going to meet with them later on this week to try to come up with a game plan, but it sounds like they want to start doing some work sometime this year. And Brian, I can keep you posted of what we find out later on this week of what their intentions are. And hopefully we'll be able to get some shovels in the ground, if not this year or spring of next year.
Okay, Madam Chairman,
Yes?
just for the record, the BZA approved this in 2019. At that time, there was already an extended period for 2 years beyond the normal 6-month period. Mr. Moore, I'm sure you can confirm that there are no changes proposed in what was approved back in 2019.
No, sir.
And so with that, this would be a simple matter of if the board would make a motion to grant a 2-year extension to April 24th, 2023.
All right, the only thing I would state as far as in the information for the conditional use permit under background, the last year, I think should read April 24th, 2023 instead of 2019.
Yes, thank you for pointing that out. I forgot to mention that. That is a known revision. We knew that ahead of time. I just forgot to mention it, that that date needed to be 2021.
Okay, so that 2021 or 2023?
It was originally set to expire in 2021 in a couple of months, and they are asking to go to 2 more years to 2023.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we need a motion to approve the extension.
Yes, ma'am.
Do we have such a motion?
I'll make the motion that we grant for the 2-year extension.
And that was Mrs.
The to-
Reagan.
Yeah, sorry, Reagan, yeah.
Hutton, I'll second that motion.
We have a motion and a second to approve the extension for the conditional use permit. Roll call vote, please.
Hill,
Yes?
Hutton,
Yes,
Reagan,
Yes,
Rock,
Yes.
Radowski.
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
All right, keep Mr. Poland and Mr. Novak posted then, please.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I said keep Mr. Poland and Mr. Novak posted as far as their work, okay?
Oh,
That's what
What
Mr.
was
Moore
the-
said he would do. You
Yes.
passed. You
What
have
was
the
the,
extension, Mr. Moore.
Not a problem. What was the updated date?
April 24th, 2023.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. Thank you very much, and I will keep you guys posted.
Okay. We have another item under old business C-21-02. Petition of MVP Foods LLC doing business as Save a Lot for developmental variance regarding Title Section 21.23 parens B parens 1 signs in commercial districts to allow a wall sign greater than 54 square feet in a C2 shopping center district located at 3430 169th Street in the city of Hammond. And we did not need notification for this one either.
No, no, we did need notifications because we tabled this last month.
Okay,
Notifications were done in error. So we need confirmation that the notifications were done correctly.
so do we have confirmation?
You
No.
need to ask the question of the secretary.
I thought I just did. Do we have confirmation, Miss?
The notification requirements have been met.
Okay, do we have anyone that is speaking for this?
Yes, Mr. Scott Cash.
This is Scott Casper from Anchor Sign.
Okay, can you state your name? Can you state your address, please?
I am in Charleston, South Carolina. My full
Alright.
address?
Is that enough for the address or do you need anything else?
37 Manor Boulevard in South Carolina. The company is from Charleston, South Carolina.
Would the secretary like the address, the name of the street spelled? No, okay, she's shaking her head no. All right, all right. Would you like to tell us what you're doing with the sign?
Yes, actually, we have installed a sign that is within code, which is called Save a Lot. Unfortunately, that wasn't the entire branding for the sign. The rest of the sign is supposed to read food stores, which is an additional 23 square feet. And we are basically seeking a variance to the code of the 54 square foot maximum, sorry. But we're looking for an additional 22 square feet, seeing that we're 300 feet from the main road. We're hoping to get the entire brand on that wall.
All right, is there any reason why you feel the need for the length, for the increase in the sign?
Because of the distance from the main road is 300 square feet, the channel letters are too small. So we're trying to base, and then the second thing is Save a Lot use the entire square footage to put up Save a Lot. And a lot of people are confused by what that really means. And food stores is their actual brand. So it's Save a Lot Food Stores. Not to be confused with another Save a Lot.
Anything else you'd like to state?
No, ma'am, thank you.
Okay, any of the members have any questions?
Madam Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Cohen?
just to put a couple of points into the record, as indicated that the two components of this sign in essence read as a single sign. As an interim step, staff did agree to the permitting of a portion of the sign. The fact that the two components of the sign are greater than 54 square feet, and that was really the basis of the need for the variance. And if you recall, the board looked at a similar case, I believe it was December, for an O'Reilly's in which they had a multi-component sign too, that collectively was greater than 54 square feet. At that time, we did a lot of analysis as to what the signs were out on the property in the shopping center district. The regulations create a calculation based on the entire street frontage boundary of the entire C2 shopping center district. And there are a certain amount of signage that's apportioned to each business unit. So therefore, in order to have this complete sign, this is the basis of the variance.
Right. Members have any questions with that additional comments? Okay, hearing none, we will move into a period of public comments. Anybody in the public like to speak for or against? I do not see anybody indicating anything. Does anybody else see anybody indicating that they like to speak at this time? All right, then we will close this period of public comments. Again, I will ask if any of the members have any questions or comments. Hearing none. We have a staff report that has been presented to us. And the board desire to have the staff report accepted into the record with just the reading of the recommendations. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion, Roger.
Do we have a second?
Hutton, I second that motion.
Okay. All right, roll call vote.
Hill,
Yes.
Hutton,
Yes,
Reagan,
yes,
Brock,
Yes.
Radowski,
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you very much.
So the staff recommendation reads as, the staff has reviewed the petitioner's request, and recommends that the BZA grant the developmental variance should the board feel the petitioner has met the standards. This is in case Z2102.
All right, and as far as KZ 2102 for the developmental variance in regard to the sign greater than 54 square feet, do the members of the board accept the proposed findings of fact that have been presented to us? Or are there any other additions to them?
no, they're, they approved the finding of facts.
Okay, you approve the findings of fact. Is there a second to that?
A second, it's Roger.
All right, we have a motion and a second to accept the findings of fact in regard to Z 2102. Or I shall say adopt the findings of fact. Okay, can we have a roll call vote?
Hutton,
yes,
Reagan,
Yes,
Brock,
Yes.
Radowski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
All right, we are ready then to as far as to make a motion in regard to the developmental variance. Do we have a motion to approve or deny the developmental variance for Z 2102?
I make the motion to approve Z-2102.
That was Miss Reagan.
Yes, it was.
Second.
We have a second from whom?
Mr. Brock.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Roll call vote.
Hutton,
yes,
Reagan,
Yes,
Brock,
Yes.
Radowski,
Yes.
Hill,
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
All right. Okay, good luck with the sign.
Thank you to the board. Thank you.
All right, we will move into new business. We have 2 items under new business that are basically related. Would it, Mr. Paul and Mr. Novak, would you prefer that I read both of them and then vote on them separately, or take one at a time?
Read both, vote separately.
Okay, we have Z-21-03, petition of Salvador Feliciano, correct? Am I pronouncing it all right?
Yes.
For a conditional use permit regarding title section 3.11, conditional use to allow the operation of a beauty parlor business in a R-1U urban single-family residential district located at 4404 Torrance Avenue in the city of Hammond. And Z-21-04, petition of Salvador Feliciano for a developmental variance regarding title section 20.44.01, commercial / retail uses to allow an alternation, the requestment for off-street parking spaces in a R-IU urban single-family residential district located at 4404 Torrance Avenue in the city of Hammond. All right. Is there anybody that would like to speak on behalf of both of these cases?
Yes,
Madam Chairman?
Yes.
yes, I would like to speak too.
Okay, wait, Mr. Poland?
Madam Chairman, did you ask for confirmation of the notifications?
No, I did not. Do we have confirmation of both of the notifications for both cases?
Notification requirements have been met.
For
Okay.
both cases,
Yes.
okay?
Okay, and then Madam Chairman, for the petitioner, please make sure you address each of the cases separately, so we have a clear indication as what's being requested.
Okay, so you would like to hear comments in regarding Z2103 first, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Just so Mr. Armando knows, once Scott Salvis gives his presentation, we will open it up to the public.
Okay,
I don't, good evening, this is Scott Shelvis. We're asking for the, for the zoning, for the use to create the nail salon, hair salon at the existing resident, or existing building. Originally, it was a commercial first floor, and it has been vacant for several years, and the previous owner believes that the previous use was a hair salon before. We're just asking to basically get this rezoned for allow that use in that space. And also regards to the parking, we're asking for a variance for the amount of parking. We have worked with staff as far as getting the number of the arrangement of timings to reduce the demand of any kind of parking on street parking.
okay. Mr. Shalvis, could you give your address, please? I don't think we gave that.
Yes, my address is 14421 Oakley Avenue, Orland Park, Illinois, 60462.
Thank you very much. Anything else you'd like to say on either one of the cases? I think Mr. Poland wanted to have them separate, but I think he sort of told us about both of them at the same time, but that's.
Okay. Madam Chairman, if Mr. Shelvis could go a little bit further into explaining the number of chairs, the nail salon. There has been discussion about the chemicals of the nail salon. Could you go into that discussion?
Yes, in regards to the, does someone else bring up? Okay, the number of hair salon, this is a mom and pop operation. They're right now looking at 3 chairs, but it's more like most likely they're going to have 2 people operating at any one time. The same person that's going to be doing the hairs will also be doing the nails, so we will not have. They're not looking at having a large staff in that location. We've looked at offsetting the appointments so that we do not have a large number of people in there. They're only looking at 2 staff and maybe 2 to 3 employee or customers at any time. In regards to the odor, I've submitted the safety sheets to Mr. Novak, and I've had discussions with him regarding a source capture system as well as a ventilation system that would the source capture would work at the desk itself and vent that from the table out and through the roof, in addition to a overall ventilation system that would vent all the odors out of the space and above the roof area.
I just want to clarify that is Ron Novak. He spoke with the Director of Environmental Management here in Hammond. Not related.
Mr. Shalvis, have you actually, or the architect, have they designed the ventilation system yet?
No, we have not. We are waiting for this, and I have done several other facilities similar to this. So I am quite aware of the requirements for the exhaust. What Mr. Ronald Novak did discuss with me, code, the new modern code says 50 CFM for the force captured. His engineer was concerned that that was not enough ventilation, and we were saying that we were more than willing to increase the ventilation at the source capture to like 100 to 150 CFM, or if his engineer had a better or something that he felt more comfortable with, we're open to those suggestions.
Okay, for the board and everybody to understand, the second floor of this building is occupied as a residential unit. And so therefore, I'm curious as to know if the ventilation system, how that will be run. So will it have an impact on the residential unit, or how that will be resolved?
We would basically go through either a closet or whatever in one of the residential units to go through the roof. I believe right now that one of them is not occupied, so.
Okay.
He is the owner of the whole building, including the rentals as well.
Right, but there is only one unit above this building,
That's
correct?
That's correct.
Okay, but
Hello.
and then if I may, the discussion of the parking.
Yes.
You started to allude to the fact that there was going to be some type of scheduling issue so that there will not be as many customers, employees be using this property at the same time. Could you elaborate on that and what the potential impacts would be on the public or the street parking?
We went out, I had one of my employees go out and looked at the parking at several times during the day, and there was quite a bit of free parking in that area during the day. So we were not looking at having an impact on the neighborhood parking.
Okay.
We're looking, truthfully, we're looking at a lot of this being people coming from that live in that neighborhood, walking to that store, to that facility as well. And not people coming, from a great distance to come here. This is going to be a neighborhood, nail salon.
Yeah.
Okay. What are the hours of operation?
Right now, we were looking at, I think, 10 to like 7 o'clock.
There you go.
Okay, and then for the board members, there is material about the parking. I just want to point out to the board members how we handled the previous daycare center case when it came to parking in the residential streets. And our intention was to model, or we recommended that this be modeled after what the daycare center did.
All right.
Mr. Poland, I have a couple of questions.
Okay. Go
Yes,
ahead.
Mr. Hutton?
I got a question too.
Hold on, Mr. Armando. Mr. Hutton?
Mr. Armando, is he far as one of our public speakers?
Yes,
Okay,
he
then
is.
you will need to wait till public expression, okay, Mr. Armando?
I'll wait.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Hutton, you have questions?
Yes, I do. Thank you. I'd like to back up, and as I'm looking at your drawing, I see 7 positions for customers. Am I not understanding your drawing correctly?
1 second, so let me bring it up so I can look at it.
I noticed as far as, Mr. Hutton, I noticed that as far as the nails, there were the nails and there was a hair. And the comment as far as most of the customers that are doing their nails are
That's
also
5,
doing
6,
the
7.
hair.
I'm sorry, there are 8 positions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we could have 8 customers in there at one time. Not 3.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The second question I have is the exhaust.
Well, you would have,
Why don't you wait till I
Okay,
ask the
sorry. Okay.
questions and then we'll do.
The second question I have is the exhaust going through the roof.
yes,
What's the distance we have to be from an operable window or door?
You would
From
have
Mr.
to
Cox.
be, I believe the code requires 15 feet from an operable window.
I think you
If you're,
better check that, but go ahead.
we will, and then if it's above, you'd have a certain, it's lessened. So, we would be looking at trying to maintain that. When I was talking to Mr. Novak, was to stay away from especially staying away from the property to the south of us. Or sorry, yeah, that'd be the south. Because that's the building that's the closest to this property.
As long as Mr. Novak is involved in this, I'm
Yes.
sure everything will be okay and he gets the final approval. That's all I have,
Yeah.
Mr. Poland. Thank you. Or Madam President, sorry.
Okay, I had as far as the hours that were presented on the information that you are changing them instead of from 8 AM to 6 to from 10 to 7 then, correct?
I would go with the information that was submitted, the 8 to 6.
8 to 6, okay? And then are you aware of the recommendations that the staff has provided, which would cover as far as the fumes and everything like that, as far as being able to meet all that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. All right, anybody else have any other questions?
Did you want to address Bill's first question, Scott?
Regarding the 8 people, you would have, 2 at the, maximum 2 really at the nail salon or the nails manicure section. The shampoo areas would be, the person in the shampoo would be also the one that would be getting their hair done. So they would not have people sitting in the shampoo area and then also at they're gonna be the same person. So,
To clarify,
You're showing the
that
maximum,
there's-
but I don't think that, again, when I talk to the owners, they're not going to have that many people in that operation.
Well, according to the International Building Code, we could have a maximum of 12 people in there. So if we don't want to go by the number of stations, we can go by the square footage.
Okay,
I'm just trying to straighten out a point, that's all.
okay,
Thank
no
you.
problem.
Hey, would this shop be under any COVID requirements at time if they opened before anything was back to normal? Where that's as far as limiting the number of people that would be in the shop? Or is anybody aware of that?
Madam Chairman, I'm sure that, we are all going to be under COVID restrictions
Okay,
for a period of time, but that's not really, and from the staff's perspective, that's not the relevant point.
Okay.
Because the COVID situation is temporary. So the petitioner and Mr. Chavez, you can clarify, you indicated 3 employees, is that correct?
A maximum of 3 employees, that's what that they expect. They're thinking of this as again, mom and pop situation. Just
Okay.
not looking at a big nail salon.
and
Okay.
then in regard to the on-street parking, that is public property anyway, and anybody can park there, correct?
That's correct.
Right, and I'm trying to get to that point. We got 3 employees, the calculation, we have 2 residential units, that is 3 parking spaces. And then we talked about 3 customers, is that correct, or was my math off?
No, I believe we were talking 3 customers, yes.
Okay, so that is where we talked about 9 parking spaces being required.
That's correct.
And then
Yeah, where you gonna put them?
And then we talked about that the dwelling units for the 2 of the parking spaces for the dwelling units would be in the garage.
That's correct.
Okay. And then as the graphic is showing that there are on abutting the parcel itself, that there are potentially 5 on-street parking spaces.
That's correct.
Okay, so the question really is for clarity is what is the deficit?
That would be 2, I believe we were talking about 2 spaces in at that point.
Okay, and so then the depending upon, if you have 3 customers coming and going, or, that's where this rotation idea comes in as far as when it was, again, similar to the daycare center where they control the comings and goings. Because, people, women, well, whoever is getting their hair done, it's on a scheduled appointment basis. It's not people who just walk in. It's a scheduled basis. Is that correct, Mr. Chavez?
That's correct. We had, when we were talking to staff that we would go to a schedule basis on this.
So is there an overlap of people?
You
People
would
that might be in the chair and people that might be parking to walk in for the next appointment?
it was to minimize the number of people there at one point, at any one point in time. So if one you may have one person, instead of having, if I remember, if I'm explaining it correctly, you would have, we were breaking up the appointments like every half hour, instead of, having 2 appointments in 1 hour, you would have an appointment at one half, like on an hour, the other one on a half hour.
But
so that you're kind of spreading out the number of people coming in and out at the same time.
But we don't have control over that.
Nope.
Well, no, we would do that because of on the scheduling, as not and not having this as a walk-in basis.
Part of when we discussed the second case, the parking case, and we have this presentation of what the parking management plan is, should the board agree to this, and then that becomes a condition of the approval, and if there is any problems with it, then we run into a situation where potentially violations can be brought to bear if they are not complying with the conditions of their approval.
He said they schedule it a half hour separate. Is that what he said?
Yeah, it was
half hour, there's different.
Offset.
Well, if a woman's
offset the appointments.
okay, well, here's my question for you on that. I know as women, and we go get our hair cut and colored, it takes us longer than a half hour difference for
Yep,
appointment.
hour.
You're at least an hour. So I think they would have to schedule when I call to get my hair done, they always ask me what I'm having done to figure out how long I would be there. So I don't know if that's what they're going to do, or you're just saying a half hour.
It was basically breaking up the appointments to, so that you wouldn't have 4 or 5 customers there at any one time. So if it works out that, as you're saying, you'd be there for an hour and a half or an hour for your appointment, they would end up having to offset the customers. So,
So is it 3 customers or 5 customers?
no, we're talking about 3 customers.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstood.
No, we were not looking at having a large group of customers there at any one point in time.
So you'll be in operation for 10 hours a day then, correct?
That's correct.
And 3 customers at each hour, do you really anticipate 30 customers a day?
No, I mean, they'd be
Okay.
pretty happy if they got that.
Yeah, I think so. All right. And I think as far as when you are, as Mrs. Reagan said, when you're scheduling, they want to know what you're in there for, whether it's a cut or anything like that, or if you're going to have a perm or anything that way. I'm there usually 15 minutes and I'm done. But all right, any other questions for the board members at this time?
Can the
So-
public,
I'm sorry, when I look at this plan, the site plan, so we have 3 employees and 2 customers.
We were talking about 3 employees and probably 2 to 3 customers. Yes. I think that's what I thought we said, 3 customers. Because you would have one person. 3, 2, 4, 2, 3, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, just having a computer, sorry, I had a computer issue. The question was, sorry, you're asking,
Mr. Hunter, want clarification? Mr. Hunter, you want to ask that again?
Yes, thank you. When we're looking at your site plan, we're looking at the potential for a maximum of 5 parking spaces, which equates to 3 employees and 2 customers.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions?
Can the councilman speak at this time, or do I have to wait?
You would be public comments. Okay? Mr. Chavez, any other comments you would like to make at this time?
No, not at this time.
All right, any other members from the commission, they like to make any comments at this time? Then we will go into the period of public expression. I think we had several people. I think Mr.
Armando here.
Armando was first requested.
Yes, I got a few questions.
Mr. Armando, would you like to state your full name and address, please?
Yes, Armando Chavez, 4350 Torrance, Hammond, Indiana.
Okay.
I'm right across the street from that building.
Okay, they will take your questions right now, okay, or your
Okay.
comments, and then after public comments, then they will be answered, okay?
Okay.
All right, so you're going to have to wait for your answers. All right, go ahead.
All right. My question is parking spaces. He's counting 5 parking spaces. But 2 is already taken by the tenants on the back of the building, the rental unit. And then the front parking, there is a rental unit next door to this building. And they have 3 parking spaces. So in the front, there's no parking space. So my question is, where are you gonna park these cars? They probably gonna park right in front of my house. Who's gonna monitor that? I mean, I'll come and I'll have nowhere to park.
Any other questions at this time?
No, that's it. That's my main question.
Okay, then. All right, Mr. Kowalski, did you have any comments you'd like to make?
Yes,
Okay,
bear
can you
with
state your name and address, please?
Mark Halwinski, Councilman, First District, City of Hammond. Let me begin with, I'm excited about the prospects of a building that's been dark, getting a new business in it. That's always exciting for Hammond. And I also want to say that that building was Ed's Barber Shop. I know that because my father and I used to go there and have our hair cut. That was a single barber on the corner. So that was different than what's being proposed right now. And what I can tell by all the math that you're doing is that at any given time, there could be 3 cutters, 3 customers, and 3 cars from rental, which is 9 vehicles. That's possible at any given time or all the time. And I understand from looking at the documents that they meant for the rentals to always park in the garage, and that's probably not realistic. When you look at the side of the building, there's probably room for 3 to 4 cars in the front if the tenants from the next door weren't parking there. It's a very narrow building, so there's probably room for 1 car there. And I do foresee some parking issues that may happen as a result of a booming business. Booming business is always welcome, but we also have to remember about the residents abutting the property and their quality of life as well. So I have some concerns about that. Secondly, would we be giving out a conditional use permit before Ron Novak weighed in on it, on what he was given regarding what there is that they're proposing to do regarding the ventilation? I'm kind of confused that why we might be taking up the vote now when we haven't heard from Ron Novak. I do want this business to work out at that corner. I welcome new business, and I do want them to be a good neighbor, and I want the neighbors to be able to continue to be able to park in front of their houses. And I see this as a very tight placement of vehicles that I think you're looking at a perfect world. And when one person doesn't park just right on the side of the building, already you're going to be 1 car, 2 cars less on the side of the building. And if you're having 3 people parking that work, I guess they're going to be parking alongside the building, and then the customers are going to be scampering for parking in front of other people's houses. That's a concern for me, and I'm sure for the residents abutting the business. So I just wanted to lay that out and make sure you're aware of those things. Thank you.
Any other public comments at this time? I don't see anybody. Does Mr. Novak, do you see anyone at this time? So we will close this period of public comments and give Mr. Shalvis a chance to address the issues that were presented.
Mrs. Hill,
Yes.
can I just address one thing that, one of the questions that the councilman had with regard to the timing?
Would you mind stating your name so we know who everybody is? All right, since we don't see you.
This is Dave Westland, the attorney for the Hammond BZA.
Okay.
Councilman, you brought up an issue relative to Ron Novak. There is an email in the BZA packet dated February 10th. I'm not sure that you've seen it, Councilman. However, Mr. Novak does raise some issues with regard to the venting. And I just wanted to say for the record, the proper procedure wouldn't be for them to put the venting in and then come back for approval. Legally, what could happen if the BZA determines that all the requirements are met, that they would make Mr. Novak's approval and his conditions a specific condition upon the conditional use permit. So it would be part of the record, and they would have to prove compliance with Mr. Novak's conditions prior to opening.
I got it. I appreciate that explanation.
So I just want,
Mr. Westland, did you read as far as the recommendations for Z2103, and does number 2 cover that?
Let me pull that. I was just looking at Mr. Novak's, because when the councilman brought it up, I knew that there was an email from Mr. Novak, so I went to that right away.
Okay, well, we have as far as conditional use, as far as from the staff.
Yeah.
And stage 3, we have subject to number 2. Would that cover that?
Yes, it would. So if the BZA is inclined to grant the conditional use, as long as they would include the conditions in the staff report, including number 2, which specifically addresses the HDEM concerns, then that issue would be covered.
Okay, Mr. Westland, this is Kathleen Hill. I have a question from you too. Is it possible for a member of the council to also have a request as far as to only have parking for residents only along this street? Can that be done through the council or through Board of Works or anything like that?
So he can make a request, I believe, and Brian will correct me where I'm wrong. It is the board, it's within the purview of I'm not the attorney for the Board of Works, so don't quote me on this, but I believe it is within the purview of the Board of Works. However, I know from prosecuting ordinance violations that it also has to be an ordinance, and that there's a specific codification process for ordinances if you're going to prosecute them. So I guess I would say that it would need to be an ordinance. If you're going to try to enforce a resident-only parking, you would need to have an ordinance and you need to have signage that is clearly marked.
If I may, if I did that, they would never have 9 spaces for parking.
That is correct.
Okay.
If I also may say that it is an ordinance procedure, and if you do have resident-only parking, then it now requires stickers for all the residents in order for the police to be able to enforce it. So just everybody should be aware that it is not just put a sign up, it is actually a little bit more involved when it comes to all of the property owners will have to have appropriate stickers, and their guests would have to have appropriate stickers. So just becomes
And we have, Brian's right, we've dealt with this in other areas of the city, or at least examined this issue. And it's a tough one. And the police department, it's a tough one on them too. So it becomes cumbersome.
And that's why I'm on this meeting tonight, because I think you have to really think this thing through. If you think you're going to be allowing 9 spaces for this business, I know that that you're already doing a variance by allowing not having a parking lot, but now to put up to 9 cars on that street, you want to think about that before you grant that, and what that's going to do to the quality of life to people around that building.
I do want to point out, and this might be for Mr. Chalvis to discuss with the owner of the property. 2 of the parking spaces will be in the garage.
That's not
You cannot park
really-
in the garage.
Okay, if I could continue my statement, please.
Absolutely.
That is a requirement that they have to provide the residential parking, and parking in the garage is a legitimate use of that of that on the property. If there is an issue as to that the garage cannot be parked in, so that would be a matter for Mr. Chalvis to talk to his client to make sure that they understand that that parking has to be provided in the garage, and any impediments to that circumstance would have to be removed or addressed.
So if I may, so a tenant cannot park on the street. Is that what you're saying?
Now, I didn't say that they can't park on the street, because you have to remember that a public street, everybody has a right to park on a public street without,
Right.
unless you have, this residential only restriction with the stickers. But yeah, of course a tenant can park on the street. But as far as the zoning regulation is concerned, they can provide for 2 spaces in the garage. And if there is a reason why that's not being accomplished, then I think that's a matter that we need to discuss from an enforcement standpoint.
May say they use in a garage as a storage.
Mr. Chalvis, do you have any information that confirms or denies that?
Yes, I believe,
Mr. Armando, I asked the question of Mr. Chalvis.
oh, sorry.
Mr. Chalvis, you're on mute.
Mr. Chavez, unmute yourself, please.
Sorry,
Thank you.
I do not have any knowledge of that, so I would have to speak with the owner and make sure that they get that any storage, if it's being used for storage, cleared out.
And I think as far as the staff recommendation basically addresses that in the first one, right, Mr. Poland?
Yes.
Okay, so we have that taken care of, that as far as subject to, as far as for that approval. All right. Okay, any other, they were able to address anything, any of the other questions that were
In
concerned?
regards to number, we could, I could take a look at the plan and we could reduce the number of employees down to 2 versus 3. Reduce the number of seats down. If that's something that makes the council more favorable to the project. truthfully, I don't think they ever were thinking that we're going to have that many people there in the first place. The 3 employees was really, when we first started, this was going to be, maximum of 2 employees. I thought we should have, 3 just to make sure. We could definitely narrow that down to say they can have a maximum of only 2 employees. That would, save us on 1 parking space. And if we need to address the timing of the appointments to maybe, an hour versus a half hour or hour and a half to lessen up the number of people that will be there, we can, again, I can speak with the owner on that. Or we can make that a condition that they have to have that. I can't, when we were out there, there was ample space. There was, parking spaces, but we're not out there every day, 24 hours a day looking at it as the customers. I understand the neighbors as well as the councilmen that, you don't want to have, burden the neighbors either. So, they want to be a good neighbor. They don't want to, interfere with other people's livings. They were hoping that, make this a nice little, he bought the building for his wife to do her, do a nail salon. She thought that'd be a nice neighborhood business.
President,
I'm sorry. I appreciate your flexibility. I think that if you have 2 workers instead of 3, then you have 1 less worker and 1 less customer. So potentially you have 2 less cars. That could help. And I think staggering with greater lengths of time between appointments could be an additional help in easing the parking issues. I really do want this to work for the new owner and I really want to see a business in that building. I just want to make sure that it's compatible with the neighborhood and that all sides feel like they win.
Hey, Madam Chairman, I'd like to ask our attorney a question before he has to leave. This whole discussion is talking about modifying what has been presented to the board where we talk about potentially reducing the number of chairs in the hair salon. And I think I'm just asking from a legal perspective, is this really appropriate to negotiate this, or is this something that should be tabled and have a modified presentation made at the next meeting?
Your suspicion is correct, Brian. At this point, it's not just a minor modification that we're talking about. We're talking about, substantial things, both brought up by the public, the councilman. I was going to suggest, and say, the position of the Board of Zoning Appeals is not to try to negotiate or mediate between those parties. So my suggestion, and I agree with, I think where you were going, which is that, this should be, there's quite a few things that Mr. Shalvis needs to talk to the owner about. And my suggestion would be that you table it, let him talk to the owner, see what modifications he can make, present that. It would be a continued public, you could do it as a continued public meeting at the next, at your next BZA meeting, and let him, present if he wants to modify it or not at that time.
Mr. Westland, if we did that, there would be no need for additional notification, correct?
That's correct, because it would be continued.
Okay.
Madam President,
Yes, Mr. Hutton.
I agree with Councilman Kowinski for the business to prosper. There's no question about it. The question I do have is, before the property was purchased, did anybody look at this parking situation?
Anybody have an answer to that question?
Or did anybody talk to the city about the parking situation?
Make sure to unmute, Scott.
Right now, there are occupants all around this building. So my question is, did anybody talk to the city or look at the parking?
I believe that the owner did talk to someone initially. This is about a year ago. But I don't believe that person's with the staff anymore, but we were originally starting to talk to her right before the pandemic came out on this.
Mr. Hutton, I can respond a little bit better to that question. Yes, there were some discussions with the previous assistant city planner, and I've also had a couple of conversations at the time, and we asked questions about the previous history of this building. You know, as Councilman Kowinski indicated, it had been a barbershop at one point in time. We asked them to investigate that just from a, you know, whether it's a legal non-conforming use or not. But there were discussions with the staff, and so we have been raising this issue for quite some time.
You know, what made me think of something too, as far as the downtown plans for renovating it and changing it, as far as the closeness of parking for as far as main level businesses that you were trying to get down that way with residential homes above. You know, it's sort of like something that could be a factor as far as parking being addressed in many other issues. That's my input. Okay, go ahead.
I think that, you know, the discussion with our attorney as far as the how we should proceed on this, the recommendation or the suggestion was that we could table all this and come back with further details or modifications to the parking question. And one kind of like middle ground question, Mr. Westland, is that is it best to table both of them or just table the parking question and maybe approve the conditional use?
I would table both of them.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Thank you.
Mr. Shalvis, would you have any problem if that was tabled until our next meeting, which is when, Mr. Poland?
March 30th.
March 30, thank you.
Do you have any problems with that, Mr. Shalvis?
No.
Okay. All right, and you will be in contact then with the far as Mr. Poland and Mr. Novak in regard to any changes or anything like that at this, during this time?
Yes, I'll address the changes, and I'll speak with the owner as well regarding the garage issue.
Okay, so could we have a motion to table as far as Z2103 and Z2104 until the next meeting of the BZA in March?
I so moved.
And that was
Roger.
Nancy,
Ms.
Oh,
whichever.
and I'll second.
Don't make-
Okay, one of us do it, one of us second, fine.
We have a motion from Mr. and a second. Roll call vote, please.
Hutton,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Brock,
Yes,
Radowski,
You've been asking to unmute. You need to unmute, Dennis.
Dennis Radowski, could you unmute yourself to vote? Is he still there? Okay.
Just at this point, call it as a absent.
Okay, we'll call him absent.
Keel,
Yes,
4 ayes, 0 nays,
and one
0
absent.
abstentions, 1 absent.
All right. I would, Mr. Poland, Mr. Novak, would you prefer that we make sure we keep these papers that we have now as well as the other ones that we did as far as for Z2102 for our next meeting?
Well, Z2103 and Z2104, you should keep your paperwork, and depending upon what information we get from the petitioner, we will provide any additional documents. Right.
Okay.
Yep.
Good luck, Mr. Shalvis.
Nikhil, can you hear me now?
Oh, yes,
we
Dennis, we
can
can.
hear you, but you were absent for the vote. Is that all right with you?
I understand. I just wanted to make sure I was being heard now. That's
Okay.
okay.
All right. All right. we will move into any commissioners' comments besides Mr. Podolsky's comment. Any other comments? Staff comments?
Well, very clearly, we will have a March 30th BZA meeting.
With two items.
No, there are several other items that will be on the agenda.
Oh, so we're gonna have a long meeting.
We will have a long meeting.
Okay.
Yes, we're looking probably at 4 or 5 things. So
In addition to these two?
5 or 6.
Okay. Any other public comments? Mr. Armando, I hope this is meeting your needs and you're aware when the next meeting is.
I believe he signed off.
Okay, all right. Okay. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I so move. Button.
Do we have a second?
Roger.
Second.
Roll call vote?
Hutton,
Yes.
Reagan,
Yes.
Rock,
Yes.
Radowski,
Yes.
Keel,
Yes.
5 ayes, 0 nays, 0 abstentions, motion passed.
Thank you, everyone. Have a lovely weekend, night.
And thanks for the
Whatever.
card, Kathy.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear.
Yeah, start with your mom.
My condolences.